So unlike so far the previous two types of videos I released, this will not be a fitness or UFC related video. This will actually just be one of my nerd videos. There's been a whole, there's been an explosion of remakes going on in the entertainment world. From movies to TV series, etc. There's also been like a resurgence of everybody just feeling really nostalgic, thinking about shows they used to watch where they barely just remember the theme song of the show and don't remember anything about the show. In some cases, like some of the ones I'll give today, you remember watching the show religiously, but you're probably just too young to remember specifics. So I decided to think back and say, all right, what are five TV shows that I loved as a kid that I think would make really good remakes if they made them into movies or maybe even a TV show, but I'm going to mainly focus on movies. And hopefully, and they probably will actually, all five of these will probably end up at some point in time becoming remade into movies, because these days originality just does not exist. So the five on this list will also not be in any specific order. So, number one, Savage Dragon. Savage Dragon is a TV show about a green monster looking dude with a fin on his head who wakes up butt naked in the middle of the streets of Chicago, which apparently I guess happens, in the middle of this huge battle going on between these super freaks and the Chicago PD. And the cops find him. He has no memory of how he got there or anything, and they convince him to become a cop. So Savage Dragon, with his partner Alex Wilde, ends up pretty much going around and being the muscle for the police, fighting all these other super freaks, throwing cars at them, busting through walls, whatever. He was just badass. He was just like, that was, the peak era of the superhero being juiced to the gills, where he looks like an upside down triangle where his legs are really small and his arms are huge. But it was a pretty badass cartoon. I enjoyed it a lot, and I think it's a pretty basic idea to bring into movie form, considering you had Hellboy already come out. And Hellboy, I mean, he's a similar character where he's just some beefed up looking dude who just goes around smashing other monsters like himself. Number two, Mighty Max. Mighty Max was released actually based off of figures, the way G.I. Joe was a figure first, and then series came out. Mighty Max was a toy line that came out along with like Polly Pocket, if you guys remember Polly Pocket. There was this weird point in the early 90s where having like miniature toys was like the thing. You had a whole playset in your pocket, open it up, you had these little figures in there, and you can have little battles of these figures, but they couldn't really even move. I think that only like the hips were able to move. But Mighty Max, and this will be the movie on the list that I think they'll just like shove this in kids' faces, and I think that's where it probably should go. So Mighty Max is a story of a young kid who ends up finding this hat, this magic hat, bright red magic hat with an M on it, and the hat allows him to actually teleport through time and lets him teleport actually across Earth. And as he's doing that, he ends up meeting this owl, or fowl as they call him, called Virgil, and he had the Viking with him, Norman. So you had a miner going through space and time with an old owl and a grown man that's a Viking. The main villain in that story was Skullmaster. I mean, it probably is a coincidence that Mighty Max was blonde like He-Man and Skullmaster was a skull just like Skeletor, but regardless, it was its own story. And again, that could be a really simple one for kids, just kid teleports all over the place, running around, and some big Viking saves the day, swinging a sword around. I mean, pretty simple one. Number three on the list, GForce, also known as Gotcha Man, also known as Science Ninja Team Gotcha Man, also known as Battle of the Planets. This would be I'd say, Guardians of the Galaxy type show or movie that they could make. I think the budget needed to make this movie actually good is just through the roof. I don't think it's going to be possible to do that, considering there's no real big following in America for it. I mean, some people remember it was bigger in Japan, obviously, but in this story, you had 5 teenagers, like in Power Rangers. You had 5 teenagers who dressed up as birds and flew a ship that turned into like a phoenix when it was like going super fast and going to destroy like the robots, and who was of course trying to invade Earth, because everybody wants to invade Earth because Earth's, I guess, where it's at. And yeah, so they had all these cool space battles in their ship, and they would jump out of the ship and fly on their wings and fight the bad guys and stuff. Again, nothing really too complicated about this. I just think, pulling off, all these battles in space and whatnot, could prove pricey. But I think, having 5 kids, you of course had the one small kid as comic relief with the fat kid. So I mean, that's, and you had the badass, you had the leader, then you had the chick. So pretty much, and the colors actually the same color scheme almost as Power Rangers. I mean, Power Rangers was later, but it's that similar concept. So number 4 on the list is my personal favorite. And if they make this movie, also will cost a lot of money. I know that everything is always revolved around kids and whatnot, but if they make Centurions needs to be an adult movie, because it's nothing but 3 dudes, eventually 5 dudes, but it's 3 dudes wearing mech suits, just blowing shit up all the time. So you had this evil scientist, Doc Terror, who was like every villain at the time, trying to take over Earth. And you had these 3 guys. You had Jake Rockwell, Ace McCloud, and Max Ray, who would literally show up at the scene. They would teleport from Skynet, I believe was the name of the space station. They teleport from Skynet to an area. All these robots would be there destroying shit. Call up and say, hey, I need this suit. She goes, okay. She teleports it down to Earth. Freaking beam of light hits these dudes. They just automatically get sent into the sky. Yell out Power Extreme, and all these freaking guns just get glued to their bodies. Just guns and rockets and all this shit. And again, will cost a ton of money, but I mean, talk about an amazing, just like visual movie. I think Centurions is like up on that list. Finally, number 5 movie that I think needs to happen, which actually sort of is happening, but based on news this weekend, what might not be happening the way we think it is, or the way we want it to. Power Rangers. So, everybody wants to see a Power Rangers movie. They've already had that. They had that fan film online that was like too hardcore for like kids. So like there was this huge thing about pulling off the internet and all this blah blah blah. Regardless, Lionsgate decides they're going to do a Power Rangers movie. Everybody assumes it's going to be a remake, a more grittier, adult-based movie that kids can watch. So this new movie is supposed to be a continuation off of the current TV show, where one of the villains, Scorpina, allegedly, will come back, and for whatever reason, the original Power Rangers come back, but it's not the original Power Rangers, it's new characters, but it's the original names, and they're going to have suits and stuff. So the issue I have right off the bat is if it's following this Nickelodeon TV show, it's going to be really kiddie. It's not going to be the movie that we wanted. It's not going to be the movie we assumed. Even though it's a Lionsgate movie, you'd assume it's going to be adult. But if they're going to be feeding off of the TV show, then obviously kids are the main audience for this. So I think just stop beating the dead horse of trying to feed off the 20th anniversary thing with bringing back characters and all that other stuff. Just make a whole new thing. Take 20 minutes of the movie and say, okay, here's your bad guy, here's the good guys. We need young people that can do martial arts, put them in the damn suits, have them jump around, and at the end of the movie, have a robot show up, hopefully not at nighttime like Pacific Rim and all these other movies. Just have a big robot show up, fight a monster, blow shit up. It's simple. It's basic. There's nothing to really think about. Martial arts, costumes, explosions. Don't try to like tie it into stuff. Just plain movie. So that's my list of 5 franchises I think should be movies, should be TV shows, but mainly movies. Is there any that I missed on the list that you think should be there? Do you think my list was just silly altogether? Ooh, honorable mention, Reboot, but I don't think that should be a live action. But I think Reboot should come back as a continuation of some sort. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your list of movies or franchises should be that come back. And write that shit below in the comments section. And don't forget, I'm watching you, Travis Brown. I'm watching you, Travis Brown. I'm watching you, Travis Brown.